weekly look at all of the hot topics in HR.
Whether it's passive talent or it's active talent.
That's a soft skill that really gets undersold in the hiring process.
How to manage in the virtual environment.
You get a diverse, cultured group of people. It's a win-win for everybody.
More conversion from candidate leads.
What does that look like in this new virtual world?
Welcome, everyone. It is Thursday, noon Eastern time. And you know what that means? It is time for Talent Experience Live. I am your host, Devin Foster, and this is your weekly look at hot topics in HRs, interviews with leaders in the industry, as well as hot new HR tech. But today, we are talking about the hottest of hot topics right now in the recruitment and quite frankly, almost the world aside from COVID. And that is the $15 isn't enough to attract people to work at your company. There's so much talk about compensation, but today we are going to try and unpack what candidates really want. So before we jump into that, I always love to hear where everyone is tuning in from. The beauty of the internet is we can hear from people in California. We can hear from them in New York, India, across the globe. So please hop into the comments section. Let us know where you're joining from. And while you're there, share it out to your network. Sharing is caring. The beauty of having this show live and not recorded and sent out in a podcast is the interaction and the opportunity for you to ask questions and us to answer them in real time. It looks like some people are beginning to chime in with where they are joining us from. Justin is joining us from PA, welcome. And Chris from Florida is joining us as well. I mentioned the topic today about $15 not being enough. And earlier this week, I actually asked on LinkedIn, what is most important for people when they are looking for a new job? Is it compensation and pay? That seems to be the ongoing narrative that a lot of publications have. Is it benefits? Is it company culture or mission? Or is it your career growth? So hop in and let me know what is most important to you. I see Christina joining us from New Jersey, Jen joining us from PA, Chandu joining us from India, Erica joining us from Chester County. Welcome. While you're in the comments section, let me know what is important to you. I'll let everyone know that I voted on my own poll, and I said that company culture and mission is very important to me. It's one of the reasons why I joined Phenom. We have a mission and purpose to help 1 billion people find the right job. And that's something that resonated with me. We take that purpose and put it over top of any sort of profits that we can ever have. So definitely something that resonates with me. Anyway, couple other people chiming in from Hyderabad, India, as well as Atlanta. But today I have a very special guest, and we want to skip some of the pleasantries that we normally do and bring them on. We have Jonathan Dale, VP of Marketing at Phenom, to talk about this topic and also a little bit about the State of Candidate Experience 2021 benchmark report. So let's jump right into it and welcome Jonathan Dale onto the show. Hey, Jonathan, how are you? At this point, we're friends. I can call you JD, right?
Yeah, most folks who know me call me JD, but you call me anything you want. My mother cares what people call me, but I don't.
It sounds, well, I hope she cares. She gave you the name. Anyway, JD, thank you for joining. You're a friend of the show. You've been on multiple times now. And today we're talking about the hottest topic. I think if you turn on any news network, open up any newspaper, people are talking about wages and also why they can't get people to work for their organization. So let's address the elephant in the room and try and unpack. Neither of us are experts by any means, but why can't people find talent for their organizations and get them off and running, if you will?
Yeah, first of all, great question, right? I don't think you or I, neither of us are experts in, the entire topic about what wages should or shouldn't be, but it's certainly making headlines right now, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I've seen some articles, one local to the Pennsylvania area. There are two very popular convenience stores, which people have polarizing opinions on, and they're going back and forth, raising each of their wages. They're also offering a summer stimulus program up to $800 to get people in the door. This is something that I've never heard of, where companies are openly essentially creating advertisement campaigns on what they're paying versus their competitors, because the talent shortage is so much there. But is it as quick a fix as that? Is, hey, here we go, here's more money, boom, hiring problems are done. We don't care about anything else.
Well, I think a lot of people want to talk about, like, is there actually a hiring shortage, a talent shortage? It seems like every business right now, it feels like, right? You drive around, you walk around your towns, every business has a help wanted sign, hiring. You had just mentioned two convenience stores kind of going to war a little bit with the wages and trying to get PR and attention to their brand and raising their wages. I heard of a restaurant chain. Are we allowed to name drop on the show?
If you want to.
So I don't know if it's true or not, but reading Reddit, I think everything on Reddit's true. So on Reddit, I saw that Chipotle is trying to hire 20,000 workers, right? And as part of their effort to hire these workers and get more brand recognition so they can attract talent, they're raising their wages too. So it seems like one of the first steps to trying to get folks in the door, get employees, is raising a wage, right? And whether that's getting to $15 or not, I don't know, right? I don't know their strategies, but that's one of the first steps in trying to attract folks.
Another news article that I saw, again, don't know how factual it is, but it was a popular fast food restaurant in Florida. A specific location actually offered $50 just for people to interview. Now, obviously, I don't know if that worked. If it hasn't worked, I haven't followed up on it. It was a news story this week. That's not really feasible for organizations looking to hire 1,000, 2,000 people. I had Bank of Montreal on a couple weeks back, and they said they were planning to hire, I think, 12,000 individuals. You're not going to pay 24,000 people to interview for that particular role. So what do you think really, aside from just getting people to click apply, offers them, is attractive to them to finish the application process, interview, and then potentially get hired? Is it those benefits? Do you think it is something along the lines of core value or mission? Is it something as simple as career growth? That's important to a lot of individuals from my poll. Is it all of the above? What do you think, kind of, how does this work and how do you showcase it?
Yeah, well, as we get into the big showcase, right, and we get into actually talking about these points, I brought a few along that I'd like for your listeners to start thinking about, maybe thinking about differently, because I personally feel, wages and raising those wages to $15, whether it's $14, $15, $16, again, I don't know where it should be, but I know when everyone's paying $15, okay, well, how are they winning in getting the type of employees they need in the door compared to their, who they're competing against, which they're competing against a global market across industries now. So anyway, before we get into that, I am curious about your poll. I took your poll too, by the way.
Yeah.
So the Slack message asking me to take it helped. So I just want to let you know that was good. But I took your poll. What did your polls show?
My polls actually showed that compensation was definitely a big factor. However, a lot of people were both interested in the mission. I think it was around 30% was mission, 33 was compensation, and then around 34 was specifically for career growth, which was something that was fascinating to me. Because when we talk about wages and companies advertising $15 an hour for minimum wage, I oftentimes view that as a billboard on the side of the road, right? Somebody that's trying to get you to purchase something. It's like, oh, what is this organization? Maybe I'll visit their website. But when it comes down to it, the billboard isn't going to get people to buy diamond rings from your billboard. It's not going to get them to sign up for your SEO website. It's just an attraction thing to get them there. And I think what's equally as important is the experience that happens when you log onto that website to purchase things. And I see a lot of transferable things in that when it comes to the candidate experience. We mentioned that it's not just compensation that's important to people. It's also that career growth and benefits as well as the company mission. So how do you showcase that when everyone is talking about it's just about wages, it's just about wages, it's just about wages?
Yeah, well, I think we have to understand first, and in your poll, by the way, I chose career growth, but I was curious because there's not a right or wrong answer, is there? Right? It's what's important to the individual and important in where they're at with their career. Someone just starting out, wage might be most important to them because you don't know what their family situation is or their personal situation is. Money may be the most important driver. And guess what? That doesn't make it wrong. That makes it the number one priority. Now, a year from now, 6 months from now, it might be something else for that individual, right? So us as individuals, it really depends on where we're at in our career, in our life, our circumstances, in what the priority is. And not one of them is the wrong answer. And it evolves. It evolves over time. It's going to evolve. And anyone who thinks it doesn't evolve is, I think, not seeing a larger or bigger picture there. So
it's interesting that you mentioned that it evolves, because I saw an NBC article that came out that predicted that over the course of 2021, 1 in 4 individuals is going to leave the organization that they are currently at. Right now, that could be for any number of reasons. They were looking to leave, and then the pandemic struck, and they are looking for more money, or they're looking for that career growth. But it's important to showcase those things and understand as people begin to look for new work. Now, JD, I'll ask you this question because you mentioned that career growth was something that's important to you. How do you find that out, right? Is it something that is plastered? Is it something that comes out in the interview process? Maybe when you got paid $50 to interview? Where does it come about in the process that people can see it and say, this looks like an organization that I can spend the rest of my career with?
Where does it come out? I don't think it comes out in an interview process. That is something that's decided way ahead of time by the individual and in their circumstance, right? And a lot of times what that means is, okay, I'm either searching for my first job, I'm searching for a job change. Am I running from something? Am I running from a bad company, a bad boss? Am I running towards something? Am I running towards a career path? Am I willing to work for a few dollars less because I know what I really need right now in my career is progression? And to get progression, I need skills, and I'm not going to get those skills right here, right now. So I'm going to take this role, and that role is going to get me these skills. I think this actually leads us to starting to answer the question that you asked initially. $15 wage, is that alone enough to get employees in the door? So all of these companies right now that are hiring thousands and thousands of workers, a lot of the attention in the media is around these frontline type workers, not necessarily in healthcare frontline, but frontline related to your retail, your service industries, right? You drive up to a drive-through, what do you see now? You see a sign that says, sorry, we're short-staffed. Please be patient with the people who showed up. Like, that's an interesting scenario that I don't know that we've seen often. So the question is, what do you think, Devin? Do you think $15 gets people in the door?
I think the wage is always going to be important. People need to make a livelihood, but I think it's so much more than that. And the reason why I think that is when you think of traditional interview questions, candidates look them up all the time before they go into an interview, before they do anything. And one of the ones that is a recruiter's favorite is, where do you see your career growing? Where do you see yourself in 3 years? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And it forces the candidate to almost ask a question or answer the question in the way of, I see myself progressing with this organization, becoming, senior product marketing manager, VP of product marketing manager, whatever it may be. When I think those roles should almost be inverted, right? As an organization, when you're in these interview processes and when you're looking at candidates, why don't you say, hey, this company offers great career growth. We can see you in a number of different ways, depending on what you're interested in. And we have examples to showcase that and to prove it. And it puts candidates on a rough angle in that sense, because they feel obligated to say, I want to work with this company forever, when they may have passions to become a business owner, when they may have, goals to start their own company or do something along those lines. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that in today's shape and form. So long answer for your question, JD. I don't think that just saying, hey, we pay X amount of money is going to fix your hiring problems. And the reason why I say that is because I noticed when you mentioned we've seen those signs on a particular fast food restaurants. I saw a meme that circled around the other day, and it was, hey, we're short-staffed right now. We're hiring for $15 an hour. If you're interested, please log on to our website. Please fill out our application. Please upload your resume and then fill out all of the information that you just uploaded on your resume. We promise we won't get back to you in 1 day. We'll get back to you in 2 weeks. And obviously, this is a joke, right? This is something that we've been poking fun at for years. But when you think of someone who is in dire need to hire it, why are you putting so many obstacles in front of candidates when you clearly need the talent? Right? Why, when I drove past the fast food restaurant the other day, I won't name the name, but it said, please enter blank jobs, right, to apply mobile. So I did it because we work in the talent acquisition space. And as I click it, I expect a text to apply experience, making it easy. I'm on the go. I'm in the passenger seat of a car, right? And what does it do? It kicks me directly to their career site, which wasn't even mobile optimized. So what is that experience doing? I closed it out of my phone immediately. So to answer your question, I think it is that billboard analogy, right? It's going to get talent into the door, but also what else are you doing? And I think that that's something that not enough companies are looking at and not showcasing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, Devin, you are fired up and you're getting me fired up. So I'm ready. I'm ready to be in the hot seat here and talk about some of my feelings right now on advice to companies who are looking at that wage and thinking, oh, I'll just bump it to 15 and here comes my talent. I agree with you, Devin. That $15 wage, everyone say the living wage, that is starting to be the table stakes, what gets you noticed by talent, right? So the billboard, the walking around, you put $15 an hour out there, guess what? You're going to get someone to stop and pause. But that's not going to get it for you. And so what does that look like? I feel that the first thing you have to do is attract people, right? And that's one of the ways, right? You said wages attract. But then what experience are you building for them once you have them hit pause or notice your brand or your company, right? So part of that experience is a candidate needs to feel proud. They need to feel proud and they need to feel like this is a company that I can see myself working for, that I could see that when my friends ask or my family asks, hey, what are you up to nowadays? Where are you working? That they can mention the brand of the company and their role and feel proud of who they're working for. And part of that is about how they align the candidate, the people, the job seekers align with that company's purpose, in mission, in culture, right? So you've attracted them, you've got them to hit pause, and then you went a step further and you were able to make a real connection with them about your brand, what you stand for, what you mean, and how you connect with that person. And they can see themselves being proud and working for that brand. Now, there's more, but we can pause there for a second because I think at a minimum, that's what companies need to start designing for. They need to start designing for this experience that not only pauses the candidate to look at them, but it starts making that connection.
It's funny that you mentioned that, JD, because I mentioned that the biggest thing that drove me to Phenom was the purpose, right? That was what resonated with me. For you, it was career growth, and for others, it was any number of things. And when I think about, and I use this analogy that Phenom is putting their purpose over profits, when you look at some of these really big organizations that we're talking about, it's easier to order a cheeseburger from your phone. It's easier, and the experience is fantastic, right? To buy a product. All of these things are consumer based, and your goal is to have consumers become part of the talent that works for your organization. So why is it easy to give you your money, but it's so much more of a challenge, and it feels like you step into 1995 when you log onto their career site and begin to fill out an application, right? I have to re-enter all of my information. Please, when I order something on Amazon, it remembers my personal information and my credit card details. That's something that is, number one, a little bit concerning because I don't need other purchases on my Amazon account. But when we talk about these candidate experiences, one thing that jumps out, and we're going to jump into the state of candidate experience report real quick. One of the key takeaways there was that only 9% of the Fortune 500 companies had a chatbot on their career site. JD, I'll ask you this question. I'm sure you do a lot of online shopping. I'm sure you hop on corporate websites all the time. How many websites do you see with a chatbot on their site?
Almost every site I expect to see a chatbot. And if it's a support site, a site that I'm actually buying something from, or a product that I'm investing in, it's kind of, it has to be there. I look for that. I actually look for that. When I need help from something, I look for the chatbot to get help. I don't look for a phone number. I don't look for an email address, because I know chat's going to help me out and it's going to be in real time and immediate.
JD, I want to call out a comment that popped up on the screen. Justin, our guy on the back end, may have flashed it up, but Jennifer Romanchik Thomas chimes in and says they also need to retain employees. What does that mean to you when you talk about career growth and evolving individuals? Humans are living things, right? Just like a plant wants to grow, humans want to grow, and they want to grow professionally. So How do you retain to do that? My mind goes to a couple areas here. One, if we're talking about knowledge workers, like knowledge workers are always thinking about skill development and what am I getting, what experience am I learning, and then that will help me stay engaged with the company and be retained by the company. Or I'm going to decide to go elsewhere, right, as knowledge workers. But if get back to the premise of this, which is around the $15 wage, right? We started talking about, okay, it's about attraction and connection with the brand and the purpose, which is so important. But what's often overlooked, if you're offering $15 and someone else is offering $15 and they're connecting with both companies, what's continuing to set your company apart? Well, guess what? Whether that employee works there 3 months, 6 months, 18 months, or 2 years, I think companies need to understand talent, a job seeker of all levels. I don't care if you're an hourly worker. I don't care if you're mopping floors. I don't care if you're flipping burgers. I don't care if you're frying fries. It doesn't matter. Every individual wants to continue and build on a career path. Every individual wants that. Almost every individual. I don't want to speak for the planet, right? So to do that, it means, what skills am I going to learn here? How am I going to develop here at your company, which are going to be transferable to my next role or transferable in my career path outside of your company? I don't think organizations should live in fear that an employee is going to work for them for a year and then leave. I don't think they should live in fear about that. I think what they should think about and how they set themselves apart is, hey, within 3 months, you should be able to learn these skills. Within 6 months, you should be able to learn these skills. And by the way, those skills, if you find out that working in food industry is not your thing, you can take these same set of skills you just learned here and you can work in the hospitality industry. You can take that to a casino and work at a casino. You can take that and work at XYZ company. You can take the skills you learned here and apply it to working in the healthcare field, right? Like that's so overlooked right now. It's so overlooked. And even as an employee, for knowledge workers, which I'm at, that's how I try to align when I'm hiring and interviewing people. I try to understand the alignment of what is that person, that candidate, that job seeker going to learn here. What can I, as the employer, what can I give to them? So when it's ready for their time to leave, they're in a better off position. It doesn't just come down to wages. It's not going to do it. It has to be this broader package of wages, attraction, get them connected with your brand, show them and teach them the skills. It's so funny that you mentioned that about skills, because I used to work at sales and I worked at a number of different organizations in sales. And when I began to recruit for sales, this was taught to me. Look for people who've worked in the hospitality industry. Look for people who have some competitive sports in their background, because that makes for a good salesperson. It's not look for someone who has previous sales experience or who has sold SaaS before or whatever it may be. It's we want this type of skill and this type of personality trait because they find success here. And then we build on that. We add more skills. And it's always tradition on the show to ask people how they got, when we have HR professionals, into HR, because it's not something that kids wake up when they're 5 on their first day of school and say, I want to grow up to be an HRIS individual or an HRTA leader, right? Everyone's career path goes different ways. And if you as an organization aren't acknowledging that, it's only going to be a disservice to you. JD, I've worked on your team for a number of years now at this point, and I know when people leave for another organization or when they take the next step in their career, you look at it as a graduation, right? And I think that is game changing, and it's a great way to attract new talent within the organization as well as externally. If you're replacing somebody who's left that says, hey, they were ready for that next step, they graduated from Phenom on to the next thing, and it's not looked upon as something that's poor. Now,
But Devin, do you know why I do that? I do that personally, and I think others should do that as well. If an employee came in, I don't care for how long or how little they came in, if they contributed in a meaningful way, if they can leave and have a skill set to better their own career, that is a moment to celebrate. That is a win-win all the time, every day, all day. And we'll continue to celebrate that here on any team I belong to. But it comes down to, I'm treating that person more human. I'm treating them and showing them that I care about them. I value their contribution for when they were here, and I wish them success. And this is often only applied to knowledge workers. And even in knowledge workers, it's not applied to very often. And that's one of the recipes I feel on what's going to win the kind of the war on talent or for talent and get employees back. People want to work. They want to feel valued, and they want their contribution to be meaningful. And it does. I'll continue talking about sweeping the floors. The person sweeping the floors feels the same way about their role in their job and making it valuable and seeing the impact they're having on an organization as the CEO of the company. But we don't treat everyone the same. And we often treat these, starting roles or these frontline positions differently. And there's no reason to treat them differently. And in the hiring process, if you become known as a company that truly value your employees and treating them more human than the next company with more empathy, and understanding their job progression in transferable skills and what you can give them, then it doesn't matter if they work there 3 months or 3 years. Everyone is going to be better for this.
It's an awesome takeaway and an awesome sentiment, and I appreciate you sharing your kind of ideology behind that. JD, a couple weeks back, we at Phenom announced the annual State of Candidate Experience Benchmark Reports, the 2021 edition. This is the 5th year that we've been doing it, and I think it's gotten a lot of traction this year because of this hot topic of let's just pay people $15 an hour and then our problem's solved. Boom, hands off. But that's not the case, right? We're looking at the Fortune 500, the biggest and best companies. And what we found is that they're not always meeting these expectations, right? I looked up some of the key findings from this, and one of them was 91% of the Fortune 500 neither curated nor suggested personalized job to candidates. So here we are preaching personalization. It follows us every single day throughout our lives, whether it's Hulu, whether it's Netflix, whether it's Spotify, Apple Music. We all have different experiences. Yet when it comes to a job, nope, there's no sort of personalization here. You're on your own. Good luck hunting down and finding what you're looking for. It reminds me of shopping online in the early 2000s, right? It's like, hey, I'm looking for XYZ product. Let me Google it and try and find it on whatever website I can, versus it being curated and served up to you. Why do you think that is, that organizations are leaving personalization behind and kind of treating these employees or these candidates all the same when it comes to their experience looking for work?
So the Fortune 500 report you're talking about, it is a fifth year Phenom has created this. And for anyone not familiar with it, right, we've taken an approach where over the past 5 years, we take the list of Fortune 500 companies and we actually audit the candidate experience, or what a job seeker would do coming to, a career site page, looking for a job, searching for a job, applying for the job, seeing what responses they get back, and we tally. And all of the audit that we do, we rank and we rate these companies. So if you're in the Fortune 500 listening today and you haven't seen this report, you probably should, because your name is listed there and there's a number tied to it. And we even show in which industry how you rank amongst your peers. It's a valuable report because it calls attention, Devin, to what you're pointing out. It calls attention to these major areas of improvement that are no-brainers, right? And personalizing jobs is a no-brainer. When I come to, I'm not a job seeker often, but we have over, I think, 280 million candidates that come through our platform. So we see a lot of data, and we have a lot of third or secondhand knowledge of job seekers, right? So when we're looking at this, what does the job seeker want to do? They have no idea what they're looking for. They go in and they do a search for a job. Okay, as they're looking at one job, are you mean to tell me that organizations, 91% of them, are not then suggesting jobs based upon the interaction the candidate is having on the career site and what they're looking at? That's unbelievable. You would expect no shopping site to act that way. None. Why? Because if a shopping site acted that way, there'd be less revenue coming into the company. When a career site operates that way, meaning without job recommendations, if they're losing candidates, they're bleeding candidates. So they're converting less job seekers into applications.
JD, I love that. And I'm going to take it a step further from a shopping experience, because I think that one is used all the time. When we talk about what we experience and what we watch, everyone says, hey, did you catch this on Netflix? And Netflix is great because it suggests things. When you stop by a Redbox, right? I know that I'm dating myself here, but a Redbox at the front of your local grocery store, does it curate any movies for you based on your profile? No, you're stuck there, you're flipping through and you're taking the chance on it. These experiences are expected. And that's why when we talk about movies, it's on Hulu, it's on Netflix, it's on HBO Max, whatever it may be. And that artificial intelligence is key. And oftentimes it's only just associated with a chatbot, like I mentioned before. Yep. But there's so much that goes into it. If you have the insight of, some of these entry-level positions, as we talked about earlier, and what matters to them, right? As you're beginning to have some of these conversations in interviews, if benefits are something that's huge to them, showcase that. And then when a frontline worker lands on your site, maybe it is that career growth opportunity. And how do you do that? How do you think organizations can showcase all of these different things that matter to people in a seamless and easy way, unless they use artificial intelligence? Am I right?
I think it's very accurate. The one thing that's interesting, when we started out the show, we were really talking about the wage in the struggle of hiring talent right now by the thousands. And when you think about it, part of that was the formula of attracting them to get them to stop and then engaging with the brand. So if they're not doing that on a career site, which is kind of the primary stopping point for a candidate, right? The first stopping point, the primary stopping point, how the heck do you have a chance? I mean, companies who aren't doing that well are well behind from competing for talent perspective. There's a fun stat for you. You mentioned chatbots. There's a fun stat. One of our customers, we happen to know this because they're a customer, but I'm not going to mention their name. It is public information, though. Is a chatbot saves them. Wait for this. A chatbot on their career site saves them 92,000 hours. In 1 year, 92,000 hours. But what was it saving them? That's the question. It was saving them hours where a recruiter would have had to exchange emails and dialogue and conversation between a candidate on basic FAQs, basic frequently asked questions and answers. So if I'm a candidate trying to connect with a brand and I'm able to go on and I'm able to go to their career site and I see some really good content, now I want to engage with the brand. Without a chatbot, I don't engage. I email someone who I have no idea who it is. Maybe they'll get back to me. A chatbot, friendly, pop-up. How can I help you? Did you suggest these jobs? Oh, I didn't even know that had that job. That's great. I have a question around pay. I have a question around benefits. I have a question around locations. In the chatbots answering those questions and trying to take that conversation, that engagement, take it into a live conversation with the recruiter, right, to finish out the process. That's a pretty great experience.
It's a fantastic experience. The other thing is the chatbot never takes any days off. There's no PTO for a chatbot, right? It doesn't clock out at 5 o'clock at the end of the day, especially if you're working in some of these hospitality industries where people may work the night shift or the third shift and they want to get their questions answered. JD, I'm going to ask you a question a little bit off the wall, right? I know you're married because I know you personally, but when you were dating way back in the day, right? If you went out on a date and you went to reach out to somebody the next day and they didn't respond, what would you think happened on that date? Did you think it went well? Do you think you'd hear from them a week from now? And I promise that this has a point, but play along here for just a moment.
I never had much success dating, so I can play along, but I'd be making it up.
All right, I'll fill in the blanks then. So back in the day when I was dating, I used to always say, if I don't hear from somebody 2-3 days down the line, it's probably not going to happen. It's not going to work out, right? So you'd be surprised to find out that only 1% of the Fortune 500 companies that we audited communicated the status of an application to a candidate. So if we're looking at it from that dating perspective, which oftentimes is the application and the interview process, the organization's trying to figure out if the candidate's the right fit. The candidate's trying to figure out if the organization's the right fit. If you don't hear from them, you're ghosted, right? That is something that has been in the news previously as well. I guess I'm out of luck. I'm not going to follow up with him. I'm not going to check on my application status because I've already done that once. So why is it so important, do you think? And how can you increase that number, which shouldn't be that 1% is very few people that they're reaching out to about their candidate status. How do you improve that? Is that something that AI can fix? Is that something that with the 92,000 hours that are being saved by the chatbot that recruiters should be doing? What is the combination there?
Well, first, let's openly admit that you got farther along in your dating application process than really I ever have. So let's admit to that one. So I think it's actually appalling. It's truly appalling that only 1% of Fortune 500 companies actually provide the application status back to candidates. Like, that's bad. It's really bad. And in fact, what I would say to this is this goes back to having more empathy for a candidate and treating them more human. See, our entire talent acquisition processes over the years have been designed to be exactly that, a process. Take in numbers, process numbers, spit out numbers. What are your outcomes? How many people did you hire? And there was nothing wrong with that other than it was costly and it never truly worked, right? Because there was always a challenge. But not trying to criticize that and answering your question, I think it's important now. The world changed. We agree. The world has changed from the pandemic and from prior to pandemic. And the one thing I hope most people walk away with is to treat people more human and more empathetic. And to do that, let's start with some basic, I'm going to provide actually status updates to people who've gone out of their way to connect with our brand and go as far as submitting an application for a job. If they submitted an application, they were interested and wanted to work there, and we should pay them a little more attention. Now, recruiters and talent acquisition professionals and hiring managers, their job's not easy at all, not at all. But you had mentioned, where could AI play? AI can play a role that if AI is saving recruiters and talent acquisitions team time, I mentioned that 92,000 hours for one of our customers in 1 year. If they're saving time, it means those recruiters now have time to be more human, to actually do the things that they care about doing. The recruiters we've spoken with, Devin, both you and I and our company over the years, they're there because they truly, really love to help people. They love the interaction, the connection. Most of the recruiters are feeding off the energy of going through the process with a candidate and getting them on board. Like, we're celebrating every hire as we should, but the process is taking up so much of their time, and it's mundane processes. It's screening, it's scheduling, it's asking questions or answering questions that should be answered already by something else or not someone else, by something else. And when they're saving those hours and they're not spending time on these mundane tasks, what are they doing? They're going back and making that human personal connection with the candidates. So you can use some AI to help, resolve some of those mundane tasks, get more time back. And then you can also just be more empathetic overall and ensure you're going the extra mile and using technology to ensure candidates know where they're at in the process, or whether that job was closed and, better luck next time, but we have your resume and we're thinking of you.
Absolutely. JD, I always say that there's a reason why HR is called human resources, and it's because you have to remain human. You have to have that ability to become not just a recruiter, but also a talent advisor, right? You have to have some of these personal conversations with individuals because they're spending the majority of their day with you, as an organization, 40 hours a week, 45, 50 hours a week. That's more time than a lot of people spend with their families, right? So overall, you have to have these really personal and human conversations. I did see a comment in the chat from Camilla that asked if this was going to be recorded. I do want to mention that these all live on YouTube. You can access them whenever you want, or you can hop on phenom.com/blogs to check the recaps. We do some nice little snippets in there, some real bingeable content. And if you have any questions for myself or JD, feel free to hop into the comment section to ask them now. JD, we mentioned some of the stats, right? And we saw that not every organization is doing great, especially with the Fortune 500. I have a theory on why that may be. And I don't think it's because individuals don't care. But when we think about knowledge workers, as you mentioned before, very rarely are they filling out applications, right? I'm sure you get LinkedIn messages. I'm sure that people get emails all the time. I get cold calls about it. That process of filling out an application isn't oftentimes filled out by the talent acquisition professionals or things like that. So I don't know about you, but I always challenge HR and talent acquisition teams that every year, maybe 2 years, go back and fill out your own company's application. You don't have to click apply to raise eyebrows or anything like that, but see what the experience is like, because if you don't get to view it and see where potential pitfalls could be, you're going to hinder yourself in the end. Do you think that that's an ongoing issue, that people just aren't familiar with their application process? They're only familiar with the job boards that they post on or the social media posts that they say now hiring. Is that potentially one of the issues that causes such a poor experience?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think anyone intentionally does this, right? No one intentionally creates an application process that's hard or too long. Like, no one does that on purpose, right? So it's always a good refresher to go through the process yourself, and then to bring up why does it have to be so long? Can we make it shorter? Is there a different way to redesign it? And redesign it for an experience. What experience do we want this person to have? It's the wage or the compensation isn't going to be it all the time. Like your poll showed, sometimes wages is going to get it done. Sometimes benefits is going to get it done. Sometimes the conversation around career pathing and skills development and purpose, sometimes that gets it done, but it's got to start somewhere. And if an application is part of that process and you didn't design that piece of the experience to be seamless, you're never going to get to some of those other conversations, which ultimately is going to be what brings that person on board. So this gets back to, right, in the state of CX, what do we look at when we do these audits? We look at attraction, engagement, and conversion. We actually look at AI too. So if someone's curious in their own company listening in, what did they score on AI? Like, we have it. And we'll do this for any company. So we launch this report annually. But any company that wants to talk to us, we'll run an audit report for them. And we'll then walk them through it and show them these stats and statistics and where they rank and rate. So, someone could take advantage of that. But yeah, I think an application process and doing it themselves is always a great way to, you could say, eat your own dog food, or you could say, drink your own champagne.
Yeah. JD, I spoke with L3 Harris a couple weeks back on the program, and obviously a little bit different. This is an organization that works with the top knowledge type of individuals or things. But oftentimes when they have a hire that they need to get in the door as fast as possible, the application process is the last step. It begins with a campaign for them where they reach out because they have all of these leads in their CRM. It begins with starting that communication, having a phone call, and then after they get to the point where they're like, okay, we want to extend this person an offer, in order to stay in compliance, they then implement the application process. And that's not going to work for every organization. When we think about frontline workers and them getting their information, that's definitely a different story. But when we think about the grand scheme of things, it has to be seamless for everyone, no matter what position it is in, because you are still going to get people who stumble across your career site and are interested, and you want to leave them with a good experience the same way you would on your corporate site. JD, we dove into a lot here. I was going to ask you, what about the 501st company on Forbes list? How can they get audited? But you answered that question, so thank you. So I will ask one more question for you. We kicked this off talking about wages, and we identified that of course is important, but it's not the only thing. So if people are just tuning in now, what other sentiment would you like to leave them with before we sign off?
Yeah, so I have two things. I'm going to answer this question, then I want to give you some shout outs, right? So this question, right? $15 wage alone is not going to get your employees back. Let me repeat it. $15 wage alone for these companies hiring thousands of workers isn't what gets all of your employees back or the new employees in the door. It's not going to happen. It needs to be a combination of wage, which is competitive, of course, and then it needs to be about attracting them and designing a really key and great experience, an experience that immediately allows that candidate to identify and feel proud of the brand, understand what the brand stands for. Is that what I stand for too? Do we have culture alignment? Once I understand as a candidate, I have culture alignment and I would feel proud of working for this brand. Now I really have a connection here. I'm connecting with the purpose of that company and I want to take it to the next level. So what's my next level? Help me understand whether I work there 1 month, 3 months, 1 year, 3 years. What am I going to learn? What skills am I going to get from you, Mr. or Mrs. Company, right? What is going to be transferable to my career growth, my career path? Because I'm trying to better myself. Whether it's better yourself in higher wages, better yourself in different roles, better yourself with a different skill set that makes you more well-rounded. It doesn't matter. Like, what matters is, what can I get from this role? And then once all of that's there and you talk about these transferable skills, that could seal the deal. But what has to happen in that process is companies need to be more empathetic throughout the entire process. They need to run with empathy. They need to treat candidates, job seekers, and employees more human than they have in the past with traditional transaction-driven approaches. And then last and fundamentally, they need to show a candidate, a job seeker, an employer that their work is valued. At the end of the day, I valued you. I valued your contribution and your output and your commitment to whatever your role was. And that role doesn't matter how small it could look on paper or how important it could look. We need to show value and we need to prove that value in our actions. And that formula may not be the perfect formula, but that's going to go a really long way of getting thousands of workers in your door.
I couldn't have said it better myself. You said you had some shout outs. I'll give the floor to you. Who do you want to shout out?
Oh, really? This is really exciting. So from a Phenom and a Phenom marketing team, we just closed down our marketing intern selection process. We had amazing candidates. We had some amazing candidates. And I just want to give a shout out to Riley and a shout out to Denise. They already know, they've already accepted the internship, but if they're listening today, I want to say we are really excited to have you part of our team. Again, even if it's for a very small period of time, I think you're going to learn. And then when you graduate a year from now, our goal in Phenom Marketing is that the experience you talk about is going to help get you your next role, wherever that may be. So I want to thank them and all the candidates for being part of the process, and just say we're excited for Riley and Denise to join us.
Awesome. I am excited to add some skills to their tool belt that they can use as they begin to continue to grow their careers. Thank you so much for joining me today, JD. This was fun. I enjoyed it. You gave your final thoughts. Anything that we can anticipate upcoming from Phenom over the next few weeks, or anything along those lines that you'd like to promote as well?
Look, we're always innovating. We're running campaigns. We're always doing a lot. I think you're going to see several new product announcements coming out of Phenom over the next month and a half here. So it's a pretty exciting time from a product innovation perspective.
Awesome. I was looking for you to shout out next week's TXL, but we'll work on that for the next time you're on the show. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. I'll sign you off now. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll chat soon. There you have it. That was Jonathan Dale, VP of Marketing. We talked about the last 45 minutes or so. If you weren't able to catch the full episode, definitely check the replay. We talked about how $15 minimum wage or $15 wages aren't just enough to get talent back into your doors. It may be enough to attract them, but it is going to take much more than that. We talked about the State of Candidate Experience Report. And with that, I would love to air the promo to maybe entice you to download it after you sign off here. So let's roll the clip. There you go. Definitely check that out in our ebook section on phenom.com. Before we go, want to run a quick clip from last week. Of course, it is fittingly that we were talking about candidates. Yes, last week's topic was actually around returning to the office and preparing employees for the future of hybrid work. So I'm sure that conversation is coming up with candidates as you interview them, no matter what you pay them, if it is $15 an hour or more. In this, we talk about why it's so important to identify policies and really be transparent with them throughout the process. So let's air the clip with Kessa Ward.
Candidates are certainly asking what the future looks like from an organizational standpoint. And again, we reply with, we believe it's going to be this type of hybrid model. However, we also know that things could change, right? So if we go to hybrid for 6 months, who knows, understand that maybe we're 100% in the office, or maybe we're at that time at the end of 6 months, we're 100% remote again. Like, I just think we just don't know. So we're taking it chunk by chunk, maybe quarter by quarter, half year by half year. So that's what we're telling our candidates when we're recruiting them in, portraying to them that we were able to efficiently as an organization be able to operate at 100% virtual. Right. So there was no hiccups in our moving from in office to virtual. And we've been very successful across the last year and a half. So we're pretty confident in bringing folks, onboarding them virtually, bringing them into teams and their career here, with Phenom being able to stay with us long term if that's their choice, because we're very confident in our virtual remote work right now.
Thank you all so much for joining us. Tune in next week. We are chatting with Kayla Drady from Mercy Health, talking about university recruiting. You don't want to miss that one. Again, Thursday, noon Eastern time. If you can't make it, check it out on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, like the content. You can always find the follow-up on the Phenom blog, or maybe you'll catch it live on LinkedIn. In the meantime, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of your day. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.